Hi and welcome to this first video in the creating a procedural eye tutorial. Before we start, I would like to just set up my workspace so that we can work efficiently. And by the way, I'm using Maya 2018, but I'm not using any nodes that is not available in older versions of Maya. Yes, so first up, anti-aliasing. I want to have my hypershade. Takes a minute to load, and then I want to activate my renderer. I'm using Redshift for this one. That's just because the IPR is so fast. You can do the same in Arnold as well. Let me see, it's loaded. I want to get the render view and I want to set it to Redshift. I'm going to go into settings and let's see, I'm going to render a 1K square. I'm going to set this to 512 and no GI for now. I don't need that at the moment. That should be fine. And let's dock it over here. I want the script editor. We'll get to that later. And lastly, I'll make a copy of the perspective view and I'll dock it next to the script editor. Let me see. Let me full screen that. I don't need this one. I don't need that one. Yep, this looks good. So for the eye, I'm going to use a simple sphere. I just shift right click and click the sphere. Let's scale it up a little bit so that it's not that small. Maybe something like this. And I'm just going to crank up the subdivisions to 50 and 50. That's fine. And let's see, I want the eye to face in positive X direction. So I'm going to go to my rotate tool, hold down J to snap angles, and just rotate it 90 degrees. It's minus 90 degree inset. All right. And I'm going to need a camera. So I'm going to go create camera and move it out. I'm going to do the same here, hold on J to snap it. I can say panels, look through selected and activate the render gate. And I'm just going to place it roughly now. Go back to perspective. If you go into the render view now, this whole window is open because I made that earlier, and go to IPR camera. Not much should happen. There is actually a light by default, but I don't have any lights in the scene, so I should make that first. Go to Redshift lights, I will make one dome light and one physical light. The physical light I'm going to move up here. Let's see, hold down J, again rotate, something like this. Like that will be fine. And let me find my outliner as well there. So I'm just going to group these lights, Control G, lights, GRP, and Control A to go to the attribute editor. I'm going to turn down the intensity, and this one needs to go over here so that we can see the highlight. I'm going to say normalize intensity and turn off visibility, and turn down this, and let's see how that looks. I need to turn up the intensity, I think. Yeah. And let's turn this down a little bit. It's a bit tricky to adjust it now, but we'll figure it out later. I'm just going to stop that one and let me see. Shift T is a shortcut to assign a new material. I'm going to go to Redshift and Redshift material, just the standard one. And this is going to be my eyeball underscore shader, SHD, is how I usually write it. Going to empty this list. See, up here are some nice buttons for working with the hypershade. So if I want to graph, for example, the shader that is attached to this object, I can click this button here. Or I can, let's clear everything. Or I can say I want to graph this shader up here. I can make them a bit bigger. the eyeball. I can middle mouse button drag, or I can just hit the plus sign with that selected, or I can graph the whole thing, this in and output connections. So there's lots of ways to work with this. And if I don't want to see this, for example, I can just hit minus. It's not deleted, it's just not visible in the Hypershade. So I will, by the way, let's turn on IPR again to see it's really shiny now. I'm going to turn down the diffuser a little bit, and the roughness I'm going to set to 0.4-ish, something like that. That's good for now. I think I'll turn down the intensity here a little bit as well. Okay. So then the next thing we need to do is to add the color, or that's at least what I like to start with. I think that makes the most sense. So there are many ways to do it. You can go in here and click the checkerboard button, and then I'm going to use a ramp, so you can click here, and now it's automatically attached. What I often do is that I make the nodes out here and then connect them myself. So you can hit tab and then just start typing, for example, ramp, and I'm going to use the texture version. See, here is created, and then I can hook it up by dragging this to the color. You can delete the connection by selecting it and hitting delete, or I can simply, with this selected, middle mouse button, drag it to the attribute that I want to use. So if I hit 6 on the keyboard here, I can see texture, and so now I have some kind of texture here. So what we are going to do with this, like you saw in the intro, is that we're going to have one ramp. It's kind of going to be the main controller for all the other nodes, or at least all the ramps. So that's why I have the script editor open up here. I'm just going to clean everything. Let me see here. Let's make a new. I actually don't need this. I only want the history. So you can see when I select this point here, you can see the color entry list with the array of 0 was moved, and here when I let go, it was the array of 1, or the index in the array of 1. So I'm using the script editor simply to see what the number is for the point on the ramp that I'm selecting. So now I know this is 0 and this is 1. If I create one more over here, this is going to be 2. If I delete it and make a new one, it's still true, but then it just keeps adding. Okay. So that's just important to get a grasp of. So instead of mixing the order here so that this is now 1 and this is 0 to make the black at the end there, I'll just switch the colors like this. Okay. And for now, I'm going to set the interpolation to none. I'm going to make one more here, and then I'm going to make this some random color. Doesn't really matter. Let's see, IPR. It's not looking very good yet, but we're getting there. Or not. Not really there, but it's going forward.